Okay, so we're swimming in educational technology, right? Laptops, smartboards, apps for everything. But here's the big question. Are we actually using it well? In this explainer, we're going to break down what separates the truly game-changing tech from just, well, expensive distractions. And we'll see how an entire country is taking these theories and putting them into practice.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the what, a really cool model for thinking about tech in schools. Then we'll get down to the how, the practical side. After that, we'll zoom way out to the why, like what's a university even for these days? And finally, we'll see how this all plays out in the real world with a fascinating look at Kazakhstan's education system.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the big one, the question that I think keeps a lot of educators up at night. We've got all this incredible technology at our fingertips. So why is it so hard to get it right in the classroom?
It's a mistake we see all the time. It's kind of like trying to bolt a jet engine onto an old horse-drawn cart. You can't just drop shiny new tech into the same old lesson plans and expect magic to happen. That doesn't lead to progress, it just leads to chaos. Real change, true transformation, it's not about the gadget, it's about completely rethinking the journey from the ground up.
So if we need to rethink everything, where do we even start? Well, that's where this thing called the TPACK framework comes into play. Think of it like a blueprint. It takes this really complex skill, teaching with technology, and breaks it down into 3 core, manageable pieces of knowledge.
Okay, so TPACK basically says a modern teacher needs to master 3 things. First up, content knowledge. That's the what. You got to know your subject, right? Inside and out. Then there's pedagogical knowledge, the how. This is your craft, your teaching methods. And finally, of course, you've got technological knowledge, the with. This is knowing your way around the digital tools, the software, the hardware, the whole shebang.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The magic isn't in those 3 circles alone. It's where they overlap. So, you combine pedagogy and content, and you get PCK. That's knowing the best way to teach fractions isn't some dry lecture. It's by using something relatable, like pizza slices. Then you have TCK, using tech to show the content in a new way. Imagine a history teacher ditching the flat textbook map for a fully interactive 3D model of ancient Rome. That's TCK. And finally, TPK is all about marrying the tool to the teaching method. Like if you want students to work together, you use a collaborative tool like Google Docs. See how it all connects? And the holy grail, the ultimate goal, is to be right there in the middle. That sweet spot where all 3 circles meet. That's TPACK. It's not about knowing 3 separate things in isolation. It's about having this unified, integrated knowledge that allows a teacher to design the perfect lesson, using the perfect tool for a specific piece of content, for their specific students. It's total synthesis.
Okay, that's a great theory. But let's get real. How does a busy teacher actually pick the right tool when there are literally thousands of apps clamoring for their attention? Let's look at a really practical model that helps cut through all that noise.
Yeah, this is the question, isn't it? Every educator deals with this. You see a flashy new app, it looks amazing, and it's so tempting to just jump in. But is that really the right place to start?
Well, an educator named Alan Carrington has this brilliant idea called the pedagogy wheel, and he basically flips that whole question on its head. His message is so simple, but honestly, it's revolutionary. He says, stop chasing the app. Start with what you want your students to learn. The technology is just a servant to your teaching goals, not the other way around.
The best way to think about this wheel is like a set of interconnected gears for lesson planning. It forces you to start at the highest level. What are the big skills you want students to have when they leave your class? The end goal. Then you move inward, thinking about what motivates them. Then you use classic frameworks like Bloom's taxonomy to design tasks that go way beyond simple memorization. We're talking creating, analyzing, evaluating. It's only after you've done all that deep thinking that you finally ask, okay, what tool can help me do this? This process guarantees that the tech you choose is a powerful amplifier for learning, not just a shiny distraction.
All right, so we've got these great frameworks for what's happening inside the classroom. But now let's pull the camera back, let's zoom out, because it's not just teaching methods that are in flux. The very purpose of a university is up for a huge debate right now.
You see, modern universities are basically being pulled in 2 completely different directions. It's this giant tug-of-war. On one side, you have that classic old-school ideal, right? The university as this quiet sanctuary for pursuing knowledge just because it's worth knowing. But on the other side, you have this intense pressure from the modern, market-driven world. The university as a kind of factory for the economy, churning out graduates who are ready for a job on day one.
And depending on which side of that tug of war wins out, you get a very different idea of what a good student even is. In many Western traditions, for instance, the ideal is someone who's an individual, a critical thinker, someone who questions everything. But in a tradition influenced by Confucian ideals, the priority might be totally different. Maybe it's more about moral development, respect, and mastering the content perfectly. In a world this interconnected, we've got to understand these different perspectives.
So, how does a whole country deal with all of this at once? The pressure for new teaching methods, this huge debate over what a university is for. I mean, how do you navigate that? To see how this works in the real world, we're going to look at a country that's right in the middle of a massive, rapid transformation: Kazakhstan.
Wow. Okay, the first thing that just jumps out at you when you look at higher education in Kazakhstan is how private it is. I mean, look at that. More than 3/4 of all students are in private universities. That tells you right away that the system has gone all in on that market-oriented model we were just talking about. And that has massive ripple effects on, well, on everything. Funding, quality, access, you name it.
And then you look at where these students are. It's incredibly concentrated. Almost everyone is packed into just a few big cities, with Almaty being the giant hub. For a country as physically massive as Kazakhstan, this immediately makes you ask a really important question. What about everybody else? What about fairness and access for people who don't live in those big urban centers?
So what are they all studying? This is where you can really see a national strategy at play. The #1 field is education, teaching teachers. Right behind that, you've got business and engineering. Now, that's no accident. This is the sign of a country that is consciously, deliberately investing in its own future, training the people who will teach the next generation while at the same time building up the core of its modern economy. So when you put all those pieces together, a system that's mostly private, clustered in big cities, and focused on very specific fields of study, a really clear picture starts to emerge. This is a nation's education system in the middle of a complete overhaul. And like any massive change, it's creating some incredible opportunities and some really big challenges. And those challenges are definitely not small. You have that explosion of private schools, which immediately brings up that age-old question: are you prioritizing quality or just quantity? You've got the focus on job-specific skills, which can lead to a skills mismatch if the market suddenly changes. And that heavy concentration in the cities, that makes the push for digital learning and fair access for everyone else that much more critical.
But here's the flip side. Every single one of those hurdles is also a golden opportunity to innovate. This is the perfect chance to rip up the old curriculum and build a new one with help from actual industries. It's a chance to use technology to finally bridge that urban-rural divide. And maybe most importantly, it's a chance to build a whole culture around the idea of continuous, lifelong learning.
And that really points to a much bigger shift in how we think about education in general. We talk a lot about lifelong learning. You take a course here and there to keep your job skills fresh, but there's an even bigger idea: life-wide learning. This is the idea that learning happens everywhere. You learn crucial skills managing a family budget, or volunteering for a local project, or coaching a kid's sports team. It's this beautiful, holistic view that says learning isn't an event you attend. It's a constant, integrated part of your entire life. So, at the end of the day, all of this, these frameworks, all this incredible technology, these national strategies, it all boils down to one final essential question. As our tools get smarter and our systems get more efficient, what is our real goal? What are we actually trying to achieve? Because we can master all the technology in the world, but it's all for nothing if we lose sight of the fact that the true purpose of education has never been just to create smarter people. It's to cultivate wiser human beings.